Now, truth be told, comfort in many cases does inspire interest, but interest crucially does not inspire comfort. Hey friends, I'm Yash, and today the three tips we'll be discussing would be serendipity, brutality in interest, and the handyman analogy. Let's get straight into the video with tip number one, serendipity. As Steve Jobs famously said, you cannot connect the dots by looking forward, you can only connect them by looking backwards. You have to trust that these dots would somehow connect someday. And that is the crux of the word serendipity, with the dots in this context meaning experiences or interactions. If you're a student, or even if you're not, the goal is to create as many dots as possible. Now, creating a bunch of seemingly random dots or gaining a bunch of seemingly random experiences may seem a bit abstract. Well, it actually is. But maximizing your footprint or the experiences you gain in different and seemingly random ways can really benefit the way you function as a student and possibly even after that. In a totally random experience, I found myself in a group of people listening to someone who was an accountant by education. She was telling the group I was a part of how through her 15-year-long career she worked in supply chain management, human resources, and in marketing. And finally, after 15 or so years, she decided to quit the traditional corporate life and start a business of her own. Now, the experience of marketing or supply chain management or even human resources is something so abstract and something considered so random for someone who by design is trained to be an accountant. But all these moments of serendipity could finally culminate after a 15-year-long period and build what is basically a really sustainable and profitable business. To top things off, she knows how to manage her inventory from supply chain management. She knows how to manage marketing through her work in that department. And she also knows how to manage her employees and has people skills because of her time in human resources. Now, I need to admit that this is something I don't do well because, truth be told, this is completely theory. Getting random experiences truly requires guts and some aspect of I don't care in order to maximize the experiences you have and the value you derive from them. The I don't care attitude stems from everyone's, or at least my own personal notion that whatever I do and whatever I am currently doing should add in some aspect to my CV or resume or my personal brand in some way. Otherwise, it's not really useful. But it does not need to be that way. What we don't realize is that there are no relevant experiences or irrelevant experiences. From my time building the smallest serendipity vehicle out there, and from my time just exploring the world around me, there are only two types of experiences. Experiences you have and experiences you don't have. I just want to top this off with another example. Suppose I want to train to become a doctor. At some point or another, I will have to embrace a seemingly random field such as computer engineering because it lays its foundations in artificial intelligence, which would at some point or another take over healthcare and patient outcomes in some way or another. The bottom line is, time spent is not time wasted. In my opinion, you should just go out there, gather as many experiences as you can, derive as much value as you can from those experiences, and just see yourself grow as an individual. Moving on, let's talk about academics, subjects, studies, and all that fun stuff. From personal experience, I would recommend you as a student should be absolutely brutal in selecting things which interest you and things which don't really interest you. Now, I obviously mean this in the context of academics and studies, basically filtering stuff, subjects or even topics by subjects and topics which interest you and subject and topics which don't necessarily interest you. Now, this is a distinction you won't really need to make when you're initially selecting subjects if you're doing the IB or A levels or IGCSEs or O levels or basically any course. Let me explain. Many people tend to conflict what they are comfortable with to be what they are interested in, thinking that comfort implies interest or interest implies comfort. Now, truth be told, comfort in many cases does inspire interest, but interest crucially does not inspire comfort. For example, when I initially started IB, I was interested in economics as a subject. Through IB, despite my interest in the subject, I found out that I was uncomfortable with the breadth of the subject, and it was something that set me back substantially. Another example I can give from my own personal life is that of coding and computer sciences. I'm relatively interested in the subject, no doubt, but I'm not comfortable with it. And my lack of comfort with code and lack of comfort with the basics of computer sciences and code in general prevents me from making any progress on the subject whatsoever. What one should realize is that if you're working on a subject or topic that you are comfortable in, your interest in that subject or topic will catalyze progress. But when you're working on a subject which you are deeply interested in but are not too comfortable with, no matter what, you would not be making any progress in any shape or form. When dealing with uncomfortable subjects, I would suggest devoting as much time as possible to that one subject only. And that is obviously if you have the luxury of time. If you work on the subject with the lens and intention of I want to be interested in it, you will not be able to make any progress whatsoever. Trust me, I have tried this and it does not work. What worked for me a year ago when I was struggling with this same problem was trying to get a hang of the subject, not necessarily be devoted or invested in it, but knowing enough to pass the exam and to be relatively comfortable with it. Because just to reiterate, this comfort would further at some point inspire interest, catalyze my efforts, and basically push me to succeed. Again, this is theory. It's hard to do in practice, but if you can, try and see priority and comfort levels to have an inverse relationship. If you're uncomfortable with something, put it up on a high priority, try doing it more often. It's one simple way of getting more comfortable with it and possibly at some point down the line, inspiring interest. What you shall realize is these tasks, subjects, or topics would basically morph into something a little less painful, if not a cakewalk entirely, if you just gave a little more time to it and try to be more comfortable with it. Now let's talk about the final tip in this video, the handyman analogy. The handyman analogy is something I've alluded to several times before, and I want to do it once again in this video. The handyman's analogy basically says that a handyman has 50 different types of screwdrivers. Each screwdriver is used for a specific purpose. I feel that this particular analogy can be very well applied to something abstract and something repetitive such as note-taking and learning. The defining problem is our mentality, where we feel that everything should have a defined template which is set in stone and universal in nature. Though when I say it that way, it does sound a bit absurd and something we would not do on a regular basis, but we do it more often than we would like, and we do it in a subconscious manner. We unconsciously look for a one-size-fits-all approach for note-taking and learning. That is simply not how it works and requires a fundamental change in the way we approach understanding and learning information. Most of us have been born and brought up to learn and love something known as the Cornell note-taking system, a linear form of note-taking where we basically take linear notes on paper or on our laptops. The theory here is that once it comes time to learn this information or prepare for an exam, we would just reread these notes, highlight the important bits, underline them, and basically learn by looking at information that we must have gathered before. First of all, this is not how everyone learns. This is besides the point, but there's a mountain of evidence that refute the legitimacy of rereading, highlighting, and underlining as effective learning strategies, calling them, and I quote, low utility. As students, I feel we should treat every individual subject, or a topic for that matter, as individual building blocks. The best part of this is once we forget the bigger picture of studying and focus on these smaller building blocks, we are much more likely to find a tailored process and approach to each individual subject or topic that we wish to learn. I personally took subjects which required different workflows in order to learn and study the information. For biology HL, which I took, or even at the standard level, There's a ton of regurgitation which needs to happen on paper. For me personally, this was best done by drawing flowcharts and mind maps. What worked for me best and what I realized about the subject and process with which I learned biology was that it suited a more mind mappy, flowcharty kind of note-taking system rather than something rigid and linear like the traditional Cornell note-taking system. You may feel differently, you may have your own system for doing it, and that's completely fine. The goal over here, as I alluded to earlier, was to think about note-taking systems like a tool in a handyman's toolbox. A handyman's toolbox would have 50 different screwdrivers, for example, and each of them would have their own specific purpose. Just as each tool in his arsenal cannot be used for a dual purpose, each note-taking system does not necessarily need to apply to each and every subject or topic you are studying. In my opinion, you should try out different note-taking systems and different ways to learn, and maybe that is what would benefit you as a student. Now finally, to conclude this video, if there was one thing I would recommend you take away from this video is that you should try and build a serendipity vehicle, because out of all the 3 tips I've mentioned today, building a serendipity vehicle and having serendipitous experiences is something that will benefit you over the long run rather than the short run. If you like this video, do consider subscribing to this channel and hitting the like button, and do consider checking some of my other work over at my blog, which will be linked on the screen right now, in the pinned comment and in the description. Hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.